Hey everyone, Pugs here with 2 new reviews for y'all. Today I'm covering Prehibernation Week and Life of Crime, and these are 2 very great, quintessential Season 2 episodes. And as always, just gotta extend a quick thank you to everyone who's been watching, liking, commenting, the whole drill. And yeah, so I think that's about everything I gotta say in this little intro, so let's just get right into it. Starting us off today, we've got an extreme episode in Prehibernation Week. And this is another one of those episodes with 2 very distinct parts. Like, we've got the first part of Sandy and SpongeBob getting up to all kinds of extreme behaviors, and then the second part with Sandy trying to find a hidden SpongeBob. And let me just say that this structure works very well for this episode, if I do say so myself, which I do. So the first thing that I gotta say about Prehibernation Week is that this is a great episode for Sandy. Like, the first reason why it's great is because, it's actually focused on her for once. See, now that I'm finishing up season 6, I'm really seeing how the show kind of just neglects certain characters for a while, like Sandy here. And so I'm latching on to episodes like this because of that. And anyway, I like that we get to learn more about her habits as a squirrel and her love of adventure and thrills and just how much she cares for SpongeBob in this episode. And all of this is a win in my book. And also, Sandy is just hilarious here in a way that she hasn't really been since Texas. And additionally, SpongeBob is also just really funny in this episode. I just really love the interactions between SpongeBob and Sandy here. SpongeBob almost acts as a straight man to Sandy's antics, which is a nice inversion of the typical dynamic between these 2. And getting into this episode properly, the beginning few minutes here are a great example of rapid-fire comedy. We cycle between visual and dialogue humor with ease, and, it just gets me every time. SpongeBob's complete lack of understanding of, what's going on is just too funny. And that line that he has about committing all the time he has outside of what he's already committed to Mr. Krabs is good because, he puts work above all else. Yeah. And, as the episode progresses, I liked the montage of SpongeBob and Sandy doing increasingly, wild things, and I love that we get a fourth wall break with SpongeBob realizing that the Pantera music means danger. I also, I like that SpongeBob eventually realizes that Sandy is, batshit, and decides to get the hell out of Dodge. That's a smart sponge right there. I don't know what to tell you. And I think one of my favorite parts of the montage is SpongeBob's crazed screaming when they're falling on the bike. That's just so absurd and funny, and the animation is super expressive on that part. And moving on to the second part of the episode, Prehibernation Week maintains its high quality by providing audiences with a lot of good gags. I can think of at least 3 off the top of my head right now. And you know what? I'm gonna list them because this is my video and I can do what I want. So there's a whole gold team rules part because that random guy who just says that it's just so funny because it comes out of nowhere. And then when everyone's trying to convince Sandy that they found SpongeBob, and I don't know which one's my favorite, if it's when the guy holds up a cereal box or when the guy makes when another guy makes some guy a square. I don't know. I can't tell which one's funnier to me. And then the last one that I liked was the whole part where they're in the sulfur fields and that guy gets blown in the face and he's at least I still have my personality. That was really funny. And I know for a fact that there's plenty more great gags here too, but those are the 3 I could think of off the top of my head. Truly, this episode is just hilarious and such a fun ride. Seeing everyone realize that Sandy is absolutely nuts, pun possibly intended, is just too entertaining for me. And I also love that all of this is done out of care for SpongeBob. And, lastly, the ending of this episode is great too. Seeing SpongeBob actually stand up for himself, even if Sandy does end up falling asleep on him and debatably saw any of that. I don't know. And Patrick's famous ending bit is, just a great stinger to close out the episode too. And Prehibernation Week is just 11 straight minutes of hilarity. And that's really all I could say about it. I mean, there's not one problem I have with this thing. Everyone is great here, even the characters we only see for just a second, like Mr. Krabs, Squidward, or Patrick. And that's something that the show does really well, especially in this era, but, throughout its run. Using its main characters for, quick gags in other episodes that they're not focused in, like, that they're not focused on in. I don't know how to explain it. But I just think that that's a great way that the show uses its ensemble cast to show that, all these characters are still here and they are used often, even if they're not always major focuses. I don't know if any of that just made sense. Anyway, clearly, there's nowhere else for Prehibernation week to go but my amazing tier, where it comes in with a score of 9.3 out of 10. Moving right along, we've got Life of Crime. And I don't really have much preamble this time around. I suppose if I were to sum up my feelings real quick, I'd say that this is a good, fun episode that leans a bit too much into comedy born of frustration. Obviously, I'm going to need to explain this, so let me go ahead and start from the beginning. So, I really like the beginning of this episode because everyone is just chilling in the Krusty Krab watching this movie, and it gives me that sitcom feel where, like, everything is good and everyone is friends, It's good vibes. And anyway, like, we get some funny moments out of this scene with Mr. Krabs trying to turn stealing into borrowing and being exposed for it, which I suppose, that sounds a lot like the smoking peanut, doesn't it? Now that I think about it. But this also leads into a good setup for the episode as SpongeBob and Patrick take their newfound quote-unquote wisdom with them as they go about their day, and they end up stealing a balloon. And the fact that it's a balloon that SpongeBob and Patrick decide to borrow is just so cute. Like, it's so very them. And, now I kind of feel like a hardened criminal compared to them. And I also like that we as an audience learn that it's a free balloon day way before SpongeBob and Patrick do, because it's a good bit of dramatic irony that I think is done really well in this episode. It really carries a lot of the comedy that we'll be seeing. And the humor in this episode is really good too. For one thing, there's a great balance of visual and wordy type humor in my opinion. Like, the back and forth between Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob and Patrick was great in the beginning of this episode. And when they popped the balloon, I really loved how they tried to, like, put it back together and it just, like, fell apart. Like, that was just, like, funny to me. And then I loved the gag where Patrick, quote unquote covered the pair's tracks. Like, that was fun. And I also just really liked SpongeBob and Patrick's dramatics about their criminality. And of course, I suppose I'll mention the gorgeous background in this part too when they're looking out over Bikini Bottom. Just beautiful. But I'll get back into the criminality thing because now I think I'll go ahead and talk about the one thing I don't like about this episode. So after SpongeBob and Patrick go on the run and all that fun stuff, I don't really like their little argument about the chocolate bars. Like, Patrick is just a little bit too annoying and too frustrating for me to enjoy the scene all that much. And, this is a common complaint that I have for most kinds of scenes like this, like where an argument is forcefully generated between two characters, even if it is done for the sake of humor, because it usually just ends up irritating me in some capacity. Life of Crime is definitely not the worst culprit of this by any means, because, like, even if it does annoy me here, the scene still does have funny moments. Like, when Patrick's all like, "You took my only food, now I'm gonna starve," and then that's paired with the detailed painting, like, I thought that was pretty funny. And the irritation that I got from this scene did somewhat pay off because it was very gratifying to see SpongeBob eat his chocolate in such, like, a grandiose fashion all in Patrick's face. Like, that was a little bit cathartic. So the irritation did kind of pay off for that. And Patrick's dramatics about that chocolate eating was funny too. So this scene is nowhere near bad and nowhere near the worst culprit of this kind of irritation. If I don't think about the annoyingness, like, too much, I can usually get by with just a scoff or a groan, which is pretty good. So, and SpongeBob and Patrick's blitz to the police station, it reminds me a lot of a future episode, Sailor Mouth. This season really had these two pitted against each other for some reason. Like, Big Pink Loser, this episode, Sailor Mouth, I don't know. Lots of that. Lots of them running to a place, too. I don't know. Anyway, the ending of this episode is great. Like, with the whole, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime bit combined with, like, the 5-second prison sentence. I like how, like, completely done and over it the officers are here. The only thing I don't like, well, that's a strong word, is the ending joke. Or, like, I feel mixed feelings about it. Like, if I was already frustrated by Patrick earlier in the episode, then the joke kind of annoys me and falls flat. But if I got by with just a groan from Patrick's antics earlier, then like the joke usually lands fine. So it really just depends on my mood. And kind of bringing everything together now, I'd say that Life of Crime is indeed very funny and very entertaining, but it is a bit bogged down by a couple of frustrating moments. So altogether, not too shabby. It's definitely earned its spot in my great tier, where it comes in with a score of 8.5 out of 10. As always, just wanted to share some closing thoughts of mine, and I don't really have that many here because I just think that Prehibernation Week and Life of Crime are two very like average season 2 episodes. I mean, like Prehibernation Week is one of like the ones I like better, but like they're just very average, and not like in a bad way, but just, you know, they're good. They're not super remarkable, even though, I mean, Prehibernation Week does have a lot to remark on, but you know, there just isn't that much to say. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so that's really all I had to say on them. I like rewatching them a lot, especially Prehibernation Week. I really just think it's funny how they just had Pantera there for like no reason, like why? But yeah. And I guess I will take this time to also say that the next review that I'm going to do is going to be a little different because it's a special episode, the first special episode in the show. Since I normally cover like 22-minute segments in these reviews, which is why I usually do 2 episodes at once, Christmas Who, which is the episode that I'll be reviewing next, is going to be reviewed all on its own. So it'll be just a single review coming out for the next video. I already made the script for it, so it'll hopefully last as long as a normal review, just, you know, because it is a special. But we'll see, because I talk a lot faster than like I assume I'm going to, so my video lengths are never like what I expect. But yeah, so with all of that said, I think I will go ahead and close out the review here, and I will see you all next time.